There's a reason why so many women feel exhausted, not physically, but emotionally. It's because we've been taught to shrink ourselves just to fit into places we've outgrown. But today that changes. Today I want you to remember one truth. A woman who knows her worth becomes a force that cannot be ignored. Let's talk about something that too many people get wrong. Boundaries. And I mean this in the most honest, heart-to-heart way possible. Never ignore a woman's boundaries. Never. Because the moment you do, you don't just cross a line, you dismantle the foundation of what could be trust, love, and respect. You see, boundaries aren't walls. They're not about pushing people away. They are gates. Controlled access to someone's heart, time, body, and peace of mind. When a woman sets boundaries, she's not being difficult, she's being clear. She's saying, this is how I expect to be treated. This is where I draw the line between love and control, between care and chaos. But the problem is, too many men, and even some women, take boundaries as a challenge instead of a guideline. You hear it in little things like, relax, it's not that deep, or you're just being too sensitive. Those phrases might seem small, but they chip away at a woman's voice. They teach her to second-guess herself, to silence her own instincts. And when a woman starts questioning her right to say no, to walk away, or to ask for space, what you're actually witnessing is the death of her self-respect in slow motion. Let me be very clear. When a woman says, I'm not ready, she's not asking you to convince her otherwise. She's not inviting you to test her. She's telling you that her comfort matters more than your desire, and you should honor that. Because once you violate someone's emotional or physical boundaries, even just once, it changes everything. It turns what could be safe and warm into something uncertain and cold. And you can't build love on that. There's this subtle belief that if someone loves you, they'll bend their boundaries for you. But let me challenge that. True love doesn't push boundaries, it protects them. It asks, what makes you feel safe? And then respects that answer, even if it's inconvenient, even if it means waiting, even if it means walking away. Because love without respect is just manipulation wearing perfume. Now, I know some people will say, well, sometimes women set boundaries because they're afraid or hurt or just testing you. And that may be true in some cases, but it doesn't matter. Your job isn't to dissect or diagnose her feelings. Your job is to listen, to observe, and to ask, am I making her feel safe, or am I making her feel like she has to defend herself? It's not about being perfect. It's about being present, being mindful, paying attention to what she's communicating, not just with her words, but with her energy, her silences, her body language. Sometimes a woman won't say no directly because she's been conditioned to prioritize your comfort over her own. That's not consent, that's survival. And here's the thing, when you honor a woman's boundaries, something powerful happens. She softens, she trusts, she lets you in, not out of fear, not out of guilt, but from a place of genuine connection. That's where intimacy lives. Not in force, not in pressure, but in the sacred space where someone feels free to be fully themselves without fear of being punished for it. I want to speak directly to the men in the room or watching this. If you want a woman to respect you, start by respecting what she protects. If she values her peace, don't bring her chaos. If she needs time, give her patience. If she says no, don't ask why. Just accept it. That single act, that moment of restraint, that choice to back off, it says everything about your character. And to the women listening, don't apologize for your boundaries. Don't water them down just to keep someone interested. The right person won't see your standards as a problem. They'll see them as a map to loving you right. A woman who keeps shrinking to be loved will eventually disappear. So don't shrink, don't dim, don't compromise your peace to entertain someone who doesn't understand your value. Boundaries are not selfish, they are self-care. They are how we teach the world who we are and what we deserve. And when someone ignores them, they are not just disrespecting you, they are telling you they don't deserve access to your energy. Because at the end of the day, love is not about how far someone is willing to go to win you over. It's about how deeply they're willing to honor who you are, even when that means slowing down, pulling back, or letting go. Respect her boundaries or lose her trust forever. Let's have a real conversation about something that's silently killing modern relationships. Mind games. The emotional tug of war, the hot and cold behavior, the strategic silence, the overthinking, the deliberate inconsistency. It's draining, it's childish, and it's dangerous. If there's one thing you should never do with a woman, it's this: don't play mind games. Because here's the truth. A woman can be strong, independent, emotionally intelligent, and self-aware, and still find herself second-guessing everything when someone decides to treat her like a game instead of a person. She starts to wonder, did I say too much? Maybe I shouldn't have texted first. Was I too available? And just like that, her natural expression, her softness, her openness starts to shrink. Not because she's weak, but because you've turned connection into confusion. There's this idea floating around that in order to keep someone interested, you need to be unpredictable. You need to keep them guessing, don't respond too quickly, act like you don't care too much, create a sense of mystery. But let me ask you this. What's the point of attracting someone through games if the connection you build is built on insecurity? You're not winning. You're wasting. Wasting time, wasting trust, wasting the opportunity for something real. You can't love someone and keep them confused at the same time. You can't claim to care and then intentionally create doubt just to feel powerful or in control. That's not romance. That's emotional manipulation. Let's be honest, playing games is just a way to hide your own fear of vulnerability. It's safer to pretend like you don't care than to show up honestly. It's easier to withdraw than to express. But guess what? Real connection requires risk. It requires showing up with clarity, not ambiguity. If your goal is to build a relationship based on mutual respect and depth, then your words and actions need to align. No more ghosting just to test her reaction. No more breadcrumbing to keep her around. No more disappearing and reappearing like your presence is a gift. That's not love. It's control dressed up as charm. A woman doesn't want to guess how you feel. She doesn't want to decode your silence or read between the lines of every message. She wants clarity. She wants consistency. And most importantly, she wants safety. The emotional kind. That kind of safety comes from knowing where she stands with you, not from constantly questioning it. When you start playing games, you activate her survival instincts, not her love. She becomes guarded. She becomes cautious. And maybe you think that's passion. Maybe you think the chase makes things exciting. But let me tell you, any excitement rooted in confusion is not sustainable. It will burn fast and fade even faster. Some people think being straightforward will make them seem desperate or too available. But there's nothing desperate about emotional maturity. It takes courage to be real. It takes strength to say, I like you, and I'm not afraid to show it. If someone pulls away because you're honest, let them. They were never ready for the kind of connection you're capable of anyway. And to the women listening, Stop mistaking mixed signals for mystery. Stop romanticizing inconsistency. Just because someone gives you occasional attention doesn't mean they care. Love isn't a puzzle you're meant to solve. It's a language you're meant to feel. If you constantly have to guess, it's not love, it's a game. And you weren't born to be someone's entertainment. You were born to be seen, chosen, and valued clearly and consistently. Games leave scars. Silent treatments, passive-aggressive messages, manipulative apologies. They don't just hurt in the moment. They plant seeds of doubt that can follow a woman into her next relationship, her next interaction, her own view of herself. They make her question her worth, her judgment, her instincts. And no connection, no matter how attractive or intense, is worth that damage. What's real doesn't need manipulation to survive. When two people are emotionally mature, you don't have to create artificial distance to feel desired. You don't have to withhold love to make someone earn it. You give, you express, and you show up fully. Not because you're desperate, but because you're ready. So if you find yourself caught up in tactics and strategy, pause and ask yourself, what am I really afraid of? Being vulnerable? Being rejected? Being known? Because here's the thing, when you stop playing games, yes, you might lose a few people. But the ones who stay, they're the ones worth keeping. Stop making her guess how you feel. If you want her, show up with clarity. Or don't show up at all. One of the most damaging things you can ever do to a woman is to make her feel invisible. To hear her speak and not listen. To see her express herself and dismiss it. To watch her light up with passion only to dim it with silence, sarcasm, or indifference. If you truly want to know what not to do with a woman, never undervalue her voice. It's what she feels, what she believes, and what she dares to express, even when it's uncomfortable. We live in a world where women are still being taught to second-guess themselves, where saying, "I don't like that," or "that hurt me," is met with defensiveness or brushed off as being dramatic, where expressing a need or an expectation is labeled as being too much, too emotional, too demanding. But let me ask you this. When did honesty become a threat? When did emotional awareness become a burden? A woman's voice is her power. It's the language of her boundaries, her intuition, her desires. It's the way she navigates the world while still trying to be seen as soft enough to be loved, strong enough to be respected, and quiet enough to not be labeled. Do you know how exhausting that is? To feel like you have to filter every word to avoid being misunderstood? To carefully package your feelings so they don't sound too emotional? There's this dangerous trend of silencing women without even realizing it. You tell her, "You're overthinking. You're just being sensitive. You always bring this up." Those words might seem harmless to you, but they're cutting her down one sentence at a time. What she hears is, "Your voice doesn't matter here. Your feelings are inconvenient. Your experience is invalid." She starts to internalize the silence, and that's where the damage begins. When a woman no longer feels safe to speak her truth, she becomes a version of herself that's palatable, not powerful. She'll smile when she wants to scream. She'll nod when she wants to walk away. And you'll think everything's fine because you mistook her silence for peace. But silence is not peace. Sometimes silence is a warning sign. It's what happens when someone gives up on trying to be heard. So if you're in a relationship, or even just communicating with a woman in your life, ask yourself, do I create space for her to speak freely? Or do I correct her, shame her, interrupt her, or try to win the conversation? Because if your goal is to dominate, you're not having a conversation, you're putting on a performance. And relationships don't thrive in performance, they grow in presence. Listening is more than being quiet while someone talks. It's being present enough to understand what's not being said. It's hearing the pain behind the pause. It's respecting the emotion behind the words, even when you don't fully agree. You don't have to feel what she feels to care that she feels it. And sometimes care is shown simply by staying still, looking her in the eye and saying, I hear you. Don't let your ego make you deaf. Don't let your pride become more important than her perspective. Because when a woman finally finds the courage to express herself, it's not an attack. It's a bridge. She's trying to connect, not confront. She's trying to let you into her world, even if that world is a little messy and complicated and vulnerable. Honor that. Cherish it. Because when she stops trying, that's when you should start worrying. Carrots and sticks is not just about hearing her words, it's about valuing what they mean. If she tells you something hurts her, believe her. If she says she needs something, listen. Don't downplay it. Don't say other women don't have a problem with that. She's not other women. She's the woman in front of you. And if you care about her, you'll care about what she says. And to the women listening, you don't need to shrink your voice to be loved. You don't need to water yourself down to keep the peace. If someone needs you to be less of yourself to stay, they're not meant to stay. Your voice is not too much. Your feelings are not too loud. You are not asking for too much just because you want to be heard, seen, and understood. That is the bare minimum of what love should offer you. The real test of any relationship isn't how well you get along when things are easy. It's how safe you feel to speak your truth when things are hard. So let her speak, let her cry, let her question, let her feel. And when she does, don't silence her, don't fix her, don't fight her. Just hear her. Because when a woman knows her voice matters, she rises. And when she rises, so does everything around her. If you can't value her voice, you don't deserve her presence. Let's talk about honesty. Not the kind you give in pieces, not the kind that's convenient, but full, clear, intentional honesty. One of the most damaging things you can ever do with a woman is pretend. Pretend you care when you don't. Pretend you want a relationship when you only want attention. Pretend you're committed when you're keeping your options open. Let's stop dressing up confusion as charm and start calling it what it really is. Emotional dishonesty. Too many men approach women with half-truths and mixed motives. You like her presence, but not her potential. You enjoy her company, but not her expectations. You'll give just enough to keep her hoping, but never enough to give her clarity. And you justify it by saying, I never promised anything. But here's the thing. Promises don't always come in words. Sometimes they come in consistent texts, in compliments, in long phone calls, in subtle touches, in phrases like, I've never felt this before, or you're different. You know what you're doing, even if you're not saying it. Let's be honest. You knew she liked you. You knew she was growing attached. You knew she was imagining something real with you. And instead of stepping back, you leaned in. Just enough to keep her emotionally invested while you kept yourself emotionally safe. That's not harmless. That's not innocent. That's calculated. It's not about being perfect. We all make mistakes. We all get confused. But the moment you realize your intentions don't match her expectations, say something. Don't string her along just because you enjoy the attention. Don't let her build dreams on a foundation you never planned to stay on. That's not romantic. That's cruel. And to the women listening, stop giving your all to someone who can't even give you clarity. If he's unsure, that's your answer. If you feel like you constantly need to prove your worth to be chosen, you're not in love. You're in emotional survival mode. That's not what you're built for. You don't have to guess, beg, perform, or wait around for someone to finally treat you like a priority. Real love doesn't confuse you, it confirms you. Some people say, well, I didn't lie. But withholding your true intentions is also lying. Leading someone on isn't always about what you say. It's also about what you allow them to believe. You watched her plan a future with you when you didn't even plan to stay through the month. You accepted her love, knowing you couldn't return it in the way she deserved. And you tell yourself, she should have known better. But what about you? Why not be man enough to say, I'm not in a place to give you what you want? Why not be bold enough to say, I'm not ready, instead of pretending you are? This is what maturity looks like. It's saying no before she has to beg for answers. It's being clear before she gets too deep. It's walking away before you do more damage. And yes, it might hurt her in the moment, but it saves her months, maybe even years of wondering what she did wrong, when really she did nothing wrong at all. If you're not ready to love her, don't entertain her. Don't take pieces of her heart just because you're lonely. Don't use her presence to distract you from your own emptiness. Do the work to get whole, to get clear, to get honest with yourself before inviting someone else into your chaos. And let's not confuse vulnerability with commitment. Just because someone opens up to you doesn't mean they're ready to build something with you. Words without action are empty, and intentions without follow-through are just decoration. They make things look good on the surface, but underneath, it's hollow. So if you care, be clear. If you're confused, be honest. If you're not serious, don't pretend. She deserves that much. You may think she'll hate you for your honesty, but trust me, she'll resent you far more for your silence. And to the women, you don't have to stay in spaces where you're constantly questioning someone's love. You don't have to water down your desires just to fit into someone's limited intentions. The right person won't see your standards as pressure. They'll see them as direction. Don't be afraid to say, this is what I want, and walk away from anyone who can't meet you there. Because love is not something you convince someone to give you. It's something they choose to offer willingly, consistently, and clearly. You are not too much. You are not asking for fairy tales. You are asking for honesty, and that should never be negotiable. If your intentions aren't real, your presence has no business being in her life. Ladies, you don't have to beg to be loved, chase to be seen, or lower your standards to be chosen. You are already enough. And when you walk in your power, when you choose you, the world has no choice but to rise to your level. As Jessica Opare says, you don't find your value in others, you find it within. Then you teach the world how to treat you.